Hello. Hello, people of the earth. Nice to see you, nice. So welcome. So if this is the first time you've ever done a live stream with me, I shall tell you how it works. The way it works is that you can ask me questions through Skype, which is Lisa Cairns 12. You can find the info, I think, in the box below about my Skype address. And you can either write me a question or you can ask for me to call you. So, so just send a message saying, call me, and I'll call you when I'm ready. You can write the questions anytime. You don't have to wait until I'm in silence. Just put them there and then I'll come to them when I'm ready. If you want to call in, please make sure you have a headset with a microphone and that you've got good internet connection, because otherwise it can sometimes feed back or make weird sounds for people. I currently only do these talks on Sunday at 6 p.m. French time, and you can find out info on my website about that. What else? I like to start the talk off by sitting in silence. So you're welcome to join me for this. Yeah, so I normally do about 15 minutes of silence and then I'll do the introduction. So, what have I put as the title? The Father and the Son and the Holy Ghost. What do I mean by that? Well, I don't know. It's just my partner was asking me about what I think that means in regards to non-duality today, and I just had a guess. I don't really know. I just guessed that the Father was nothing, the Holy Ghost was consciousness, and the Son was like everything, was like this life, was the manifest. But I don't know. I don't really know that much about Christianity. Even though I was born into Christianity. Isn't that so strange? We're born into a religion. We're born into society. I'm British, you're German, you're French, you're Christian. You're an elk. That is what you are. Yeah. So I was just basically having a guess about that, and then when I had to write the title, I just thought it was appropriate for Christmas, Easter, to talk about that. And I was just talking about more than likely that today is the resurrection of Jesus. Like Jesus didn't really die on the cross. It was a spiritual death. So Ramesh Balsekar always used to say, and I just thought this was so beautiful, that the vertical line was like this moment, and the horizontal line of the cross was time, was like our timeline. So we're born, we have these memories, and it's this moment, then it's the future, like what we're going to do, where we're going to go, and we're always in this timeline moving along. And the image of Jesus on the cross is that his hands are like nailed to past and future, and then the way that he lays is that his heart is actually right in the middle of these, where these two crosses meet. So you've got the cross, which is the horizontal line, and the vertical line, and then his heart lays right in the center. And I just think that's super beautiful, because that's where all of our hearts lay, in the middle. And it appears that there is nothing, there's just this moment, just this, and then it appears to be experiencing through a character that's functioning through a logical, linear timeline. So more than likely, Jesus' death was a spiritual one, and that the resurrection is actually him coming back to life, but he never really died physically. So he died spiritually. It's very beautiful. It's a shame that I don't know more about Christianity. And I know more about Buddhism and Hinduism than I do about Christianity. Ironic, isn't it? Or maybe not. Okay, so let's get going on this talk. So what I like to talk about now is non-duality. And who is it that's experiencing now? Who? Who is experiencing who, or what, or where, or when, or how? So right now, you're looking at me. So it feels like you, who this finger is pointing to, is looking at me. You are looking to me. And it feels like you are a solid person, that your consciousness, your feeling of being you, your ideas, your thoughts, your habits, that solid entity, all these things like accumulated together, your feelings are a solid entity which is looking out of that body and looking at me. And that you're sitting there having an experience, and that person comes from the past. So you walked from the past into this present moment, And later you will walk off into another place, which will be the future moment. So your mind is always projecting this past, future, past, future. I'm always coming from the past and going towards the future. And you're never really here, even though you're always here. In your mind, you're never really here. In your mind, you're always in the past or the future, because you can't really think about now. You can only think about what has been, what could be, what's not, what isn't, what you've lost. You can't really think about this. When you think about this, it's that. No words. So that is actually not true, that you are an entity that's come from the past and going into the future and sitting looking at me. You aren't that person. That person is an appearance that's coming and going in who you are, but who you are has been forgotten. So who you are has been lost because there's been a fixation on time, getting pleasure and avoiding pain and making your life a specific way. So who you are is a consciousness that's looking through this emptiness. And it's not a thing, it's not a place, it's not a name, it's not a feeling, it's not an emotion, it's not something that you as a person can grab onto, but yet it's always happening. And you're also this sense of being, this sense of being alive. And these two things, so other teachers might call it the consciousness and the I am. But these two things are actually one and the same thing, this sense of being and this empty looking. And they're both without colour, but they're both always here in every experience and never leave. And why it's so important to remember this is that this is the home. This is the place where nothing ever affects you. Because the human believes it's something moving in time, life is always like affecting it and bashing against it and hurting it, and who you are is always changing. It's like when you're only identified with the person, with the illusory self, you're kind of in a storm. Even though there's times of quiet and mellow in the storm, it's like you're always in this movement. Whereas when you remember who you are, it's like having one foot in this stillness, this presence. It's knowing that there's something here that never gets eaten, never gets destroyed, never gets harmed. It never loses itself. It's so beautiful. It is freedom. It's such a beautiful thing to realize that your essence never leaves you. What leaves you is all other things. And what you always look for is your essence, which is always here. Everything else is pleasure and pain and always appearing and disappearing, and never can be held onto. And what the person is always doing is trying to hold on to something to make me safe, to make me whole. And it never works. Never works. So this empty looking you always have, I'm going to do both separately. I'm going to do the empty looking and then I'll do the alive presence. So when you wake up in the morning, what is the first thing that you need when waking up happens? So in deep sleep, we could say there is an absence of consciousness. And we'll come back and we'll look at that afterwards, because there really isn't an absence of consciousness. What there is going to sleep and then waking up again. Like we never know non-existence because it doesn't exist. We only know existence. So actually there's never not consciousness. There's always consciousness. Because when non-existence happens, nothing happens, so it's instantaneously existence again. But in deep sleep, let's just say, so we can try and pinpoint what consciousness is. So in deep sleep, there's an absence of consciousness. And when there's an absence of consciousness, there's the absence of things and exact absence of existence. And then when you wake up in the morning, the first thing that's needed is consciousness. If there's no consciousness, then nothing's happening. So you need consciousness of sound, sight, smell, the thoughts of you, the ideas of you. You need to be switched on, otherwise nothing's happening. It's a bit like this Zen saying, which is, if a tree falls in the forest and doesn't make a sound, if the tree falls in the forest and there's no one there to listen, does it make a sound? So like, if there's no consciousness, if you don't wake up and consciousness doesn't get switched on, can you happen? Can the world happen? Everyone's like, No, nothing can happen unless consciousness is switched on, because who would be conscious of it? Are you sure about that, Lisa? Yes. So the primary thing to experiencing is consciousness needs to happen. Otherwise, there's no consciousness of what happens. So then nothing's happening. There's nothing being conscious of it, nothing's happening. There's non-existence. There has to be consciousness. And the mind imagines, yes, there can be things if consciousness doesn't exist, but you're imagining that through consciousness. So you're imagining that through being conscious of it. So if you imagine the dinosaurs, or you imagine like Earth before beings existed, that's still appearing in your imagination, and there's still consciousness there. If there isn't consciousness there, it's not happening. Consciousness is primary to experiencing. So in the morning when you wake up, there is unconsciousness and deep sleep, but really it's not unconsciousness, it's just the absence of existence, which doesn't exist. So it just goes deep, it just goes falling asleep and then awakeness again. But we use that for something to compare against. So in the morning, you wake up and the first thing that has to happen is consciousness. You can't wake up and think, oh, I really need to go to the toilet. Like, there needs to be something that's conscious of that, otherwise who knows that's being said. I'm not talking about self-consciousness when you wake up and then suddenly you're like, oh, I'm looking nice and trim today. Go Lisa. I'm not talking about self-consciousness, like being conscious of your body or being conscious of your workload or what you're doing today. I'm talking about this consciousness that knows the thought that comes up and says, it's Tuesday today. There needs to be something that recognizes it. So just like, say if you were going to go and watch a film and you were late by 15 minutes, so 15 minutes of the film plays and you don't see it, so you come in 15 minutes late. Like, your consciousness wasn't perceiving that film, so for the first 15 minutes you can't know what happened because there was no consciousness that was recognizing it. And it's the same for this life. Like, if your consciousness doesn't wake up in the minute and you do actions for 15 minutes, if there's no consciousness of it, then it doesn't exist and you can never know it. So there needs to be this consciousness, and then the consciousness comes in, and then the senses begin to come back. So you begin to have a sense of needing to go to the toilet, which is often the first thing that comes in for me. It's like, it always happens, the weeing thing. Even in the middle of the night, I wake up and then I'm like, I need a wee. Well, it's just an obsession that my brain gets. I don't actually always need a wee, but it's the first thing that comes into my mind. Wee, you have to wee. And then even if I don't need a wee, I have to get up and go for a wee just because it's there, the thought. I even need to go for a wee before I know that I'm Lisa. Like, wee is the first thing. But there can be many different experiences. So one of my awakening experiences, which I've told many times before, is I was in India, and I don't know if I fell asleep on the bed or what happened, but the whole world disappeared. Everything disappeared. The sounds outside, everything was gone. The sounds, the smells, the sights, everything. And all there was an awakeness, but awakeness with nothing. And there wasn't a Lisa that was like, oh, I know this, or oh, this is what they talk about. There was just awakeness, and that awakeness could have been there for eternity. Who knows how long that awakeness was there? And then finally a thought popped in and said, this is what they talk about. And then another thought was like, if there's a they, then who are you? And then the whole of Lisa's life came in, and all these memories. But this awakening, this was so profound because I saw so clearly what I truly was, that who I was this awakeness first, prior to Lisa. And that's the same in your case. Your awakeness is what's always here. that recognition. It never leaves. What leaves and comes and goes and changes, ever changing, is the character. So Lisa came back in when there was a thought that came up and said, if this is what they talk about, who are you? Then Lisa came in, and then suddenly Lisa was known. Lisa appeared into consciousness. And this is where it follows you everywhere. You can't get rid of consciousness. You can't just decide, okay, I'm going to just have like 4 hours of no consciousness. I'm just going to take the afternoon off. Nothing would happen if there was an absence of consciousness. You can't have experience without consciousness. There needs to be a consciousness. What can happen is that you, the character, becomes unconscious of your shit or your dynamics or something, or like just is like in a drug-phased haze all afternoon. But that's not what's being talked about. That consciousness there is there all the time. It was even there before you were born, but you just can't remember it because your memory arises with this body. It's always here, this consciousness. And it's here, it's not in time, it's not something you can think about. It's looking at you. It's looking at the one that's all like, where is consciousness? Where is consciousness? There's somebody looking at that. There's somebody knowing that. Or not somebody, there's something knowing that. Like that's not the knowing, that's being known. Like consciousness can't know itself because consciousness is being conscious. So you could imagine it like sitting in a film theatre again. So if you imagine that you're sitting watching a film. So, and then the character in the film is all like, oh, I want to know who's watching this film. Like, who is watching this film in the audience? Like, who is watching this? Who is being conscious of this film? The characters can never know it because they're the characters playing in it. So they're running around like looking for the person that's watching the film, but they can never find that because they're being watched. The film is being watched. So the people in the audience know that the characters are doing that, but the characters can never look out and see, like just peer through the screen and be like, who's watching this film? They're always inside the film, and it's the same for the character. The character is appearing inside the film of your life, the story of your life, and it's being watched by this consciousness. And this is who you are. This is who you are. And this consciousness is really magical because when you begin to examine it, you begin to realize there is no consciousness which is independent of all things. You could say consciousness is everything. Consciousness is appearances, which is fucking mind-blowing, man. That's mind-blowing, man. That consciousness is all things. So your essence actually isn't a consciousness that's watching you and watching your body. It's actually appearing in all things. Your essence is everywhere now. Your essence is the sound of my voice, the colour of my skin, my nose, the wall behind me, the kitchen, the kitchen. I think that's what we call it in English, like a kitchen like this, like an old-fashioned kitchen is kitch. Ja, natürlich. So, pourquoi? Yes, that's that. Job done. This is who you are. And this consciousness doesn't have any opinion. It doesn't care. It is just watching. The person cares. The person is upset. The person wants to get enlightened or not enlightened. The person wants to get to something. The person likes the drink or not the drink. The person is enlightened or not enlightened. The person is free or not free. The person cares about things and doesn't care about things. Consciousness is just beyond anything in this world. It's not a thing, and yet it is all things. It's the recognition of all things, And that is happening in the things. It's not happening somewhere behind your head. This is magic. Magic. This is magic. Life is magic, not logic. Life is magic, not logic. So let's talk about this beingness. So you're also this sense of being, this sense of existing. And this is the most intimate sense of being, and it's the most intimate sense of being you, but it gets muddled up with your feelings, your thoughts, your ideas, your body, your sensations. So if you imagine going to sleep at night, so you go and you get into your bed. Let's just make sure this is all running. Hunky-dory. Hunky-dory. Yes, it's all running hunky-dory. Yes, we are at nice colours. So, if you imagine getting into bed tonight, now, the wise people are getting into bed at 9 o'clock at night. They're reading the book till 9:30 and then sleep by 10 o'clock. These are the wise. In the Chinese medicine, they always say that sleeping before 10 p.m. is very wise. I don't do that, but that's for the wise people. So the wise people get into bed and they fall asleep at 10 o'clock, and then at 10 past 10, they start having dreams. So you get into bed and you fall asleep and you have a dream. And when you have a dream, some people lucid dream, but I'm not going to talk about lucid dream now. So when you have a dream, you dream that you're more than likely this character in the dream. But you more than likely don't really know who this character is. So when you're in a dream, it doesn't like really think about your life or have too many ideas about your life, even though there's some things like maybe you're meeting this person from your life and that person, so there's some crossovers, but it's all very vague. But what you carry from this world to that world when you dream at night is this sense of being, a sense of existing. So even though your character might have some differences, you might be older or younger or afraid or happy or excited or have this story or that story, or be plumpy or skinny, whatever it is in your dream at night, you have the same sense of existing. So the same sense of being, or that same sense of the most intimate sense of you that was there when you were 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. That when you went throughout your life, there's always this sense of being. But in your dream at night, you don't necessarily remember anything about your current life. In your dream at night, it might be all muddled and all upside down. And so those things are all variables. Your body's a variable, your feelings are a variable, your emotions are a variable, your ideas are variable. Everything is varying in that dream, but you still have that sense of existing. And that sense of existing isn't something you can grab hold of and you can look at. It doesn't look like anything. It doesn't exist as a thing, but it's this sense of existing. And you have that all the time. And like my mum was so cute when she was 70. She said, I don't feel like 70. And my friend said to her, yeah, you feel like you're 21. And she was like, yeah, I do. She says, it's a shock when I look in the mirror and I see a 70-year-old, because we still feel like that timeless, ageless essence, no matter what age we are. Like, I don't feel like I'm 39. I don't feel like I'm 21 or any age. Like, I have images of my body being different ages, but internally that intimate essence of being feels ageless. And it's right here and it's vibrating with love. You could say that that's the love side, the essence side is the love side, and the Consciousness, the emptiness, is the wisdom side. So Nisargadatta Maharaj famously said, to know I am nothing is wisdom, to know I am everything is love, and in between my life exists, or my life resides, I think it is. Beautiful. So the everything, the sense of existence, you could say, is the everything part of life, and the consciousness is the nothing part of life, and then in the middle, the body is like this machine which is being looked through in order to experience this life. Because you can't look from everything, because that wouldn't work. You have to look through an object. Isn't that wonderful? Es ist fantastisch. Es ist fantastisch. Do I have anything else to say on this matter? What manifests when you forget yourself, so when that isn't obvious, you seek. So this person arises, this person inflates itself and seeks. So it seeks for that love in pleasure. And it believes that what it's lost, like it believes that pain is taking away that home. So pain is taking away home and pleasure is giving you home. But there's no consciousness of this. You, on the personal level, you don't have an awareness of this. That's an unconscious thing, a dynamic that's appearing in the person. And so the person seeks in time to have freedom. And this causes chaos in the person. Yes. Okay, so let's have some questions. Hi Thomas. Happy Easter. Hi Ben. Hi Lisa. I don't have any questions. I just want to say thank you for doing these videos. With pleasure, Ben. Hi Oleg. I wanted to ask how not to identify with the image of yourself during any action. Yeah. The question is who would be the one that's trying to not identify with itself through any action? Like, who would that be? That's part of that illusory self. So it becomes very complex when you begin to believe that it's your job to wake yourself up, because who would wake themselves up? Because whatever appears in the dream has got nothing to do with that which is watching the dream. So if you imagine watching a film and these characters inside the film, or these actors inside the film wanting to look to see who's watching the film, so they're doing a whole skit and a whole scene about trying to see the people that are watching the film, and they're going up to the camera, they're like trying to look, but they can never look to see who's watching the film. And it's exactly like that now. Like, the character can't see consciousness. The character is being watched. But the character is not alive. It doesn't exist. So whatever the character thinks consciousness is, or thinks it knows about this subject, is a lie, because it's being experienced. This vastness is experiencing it. But that doesn't mean the consciousness and this sense of being is far away from you. It is your most intimate sense of being. That you're looking, and your sense of existing is what's right here. It's what you are. But it's often overlooked because you're looking for something really spectacular in these big, like, enlightenment experiences, whereas the empty looking in your sense of existence is really simple, and you've always known it. It's always been here. It's just that the person is claiming to be conscious. The person is claiming to exist. So it gets muddled up, like the consciousness and the personal stuff is like this. And then through non-duality, it begins to separate out. But it's never the person that wakes up. Like, the person can have an effect. Like, this waking up can have an effect on the person, and the person changes. And that's really exciting in the beginning, watching the changes of the person. But that's not it. That's not a permanent thing. And then the person also thinks it gets it, understands this, it knows what's being talked about. Whereas all of that is something coming and going. It's something being watched. And that watching isn't inside the body. That's an illusion. Where you believe that illusion, it makes it feel like the watching is inside the body. It makes it feel like the sense of existence is inside the body, whereas it isn't inside the body. So you're never going to be able to wake yourself up and not identify with the image of you. The image of you appears. There's nothing wrong with that. It appears. Like, the image of me appears, of Lisa appears. But what is watching that? What is experiencing that? Notice that which is experiencing that it never budges, it never leaves. It's here in all experiences. Everything else is like an ethereal dream that's coming and going and coming and going. But that which you truly are is so still and present, and everything is moving in and through that. Thank you for your question. Hi Lola. Haha. Yeah, what do you mean by that, Lisa? I don't know. That was at 6:38, Lola, so I'm not sure what you are referring to. You have to tell me what you're referring to. Hi, Nick. Hi, Samapan. Hello. Hi, Divesh. Hi, Kandaresh. Hi, Lisa. I went through a shift about 4 weeks ago when I saw Kandaresh as contained within me, and I could see his mental operations, emotions, memory. Beautiful. More recently, it feels like Kandaresh is going through a transformation. Two things are happening. One, there is a burning of Kandaresh, memories, emotion. Two, an increase in silent, growing within Kandaresh. Any comments, feedbacks would be appreciated. Yeah, so it often changes the character. But that might be endless, something that you endlessly unfold, because who you truly are never moves and doesn't have any perspective on this. It's just watching. And then the character can endlessly expand to be more in line with this. Like everything in life is infinite. It's expanding outwards. So if you imagine the Big Bang, like we started off as this nothing and then it exploded and everything just keeps on going and going and going and going and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so that's what's going to happen with the human. It will endlessly expand, which is beautiful. But when you do have these shifts, there can be big changes that happen in the personality. Like for me, my personality is still expanding and aligning more and more with this message. So like old karmas that I got really stuck on come up and change and shift. Old dynamics, old seeking patterns, and they all come to light and change throughout the years. It's been like 10 years and they slowly seem to transform, and they transform a bit and then a bit more, and life always seems to bring up things that the character needs to learn. But that's never ending. Like I don't look for an end in that, because that would be seeking. It's just something that's happening. Your home, your freedom is that which is watching. It's that which is always here and ever present, and everything else is mystery, really. We can't ever define what an enlightened person looks like, or what this looks like, or that looks like. Maybe there's been moments in the last 10 years where I hope that Lisa gets to or empties out these old dynamics, but now I just don't care. Like if anger comes up, it comes up. If old seeking patterns come up, they come up. If or conditioning, if energies come up, I have all types of different energies, like tight energies, like if I go into certain rooms, or difficult or painful energies. But to me now, it's just life. And of course the human's going to endlessly expand, and on the character level I'm so open to expanding and to changing and to evolving, but at the same time I don't care. Like on the human level I don't care. Like I just know so deeply that home isn't a characterized thing. It's beyond that, and there could be, you get 10 people that all deeply know who they are and have had an energetic shift. And then you could get some people that are more evolved than other people. But it doesn't mean that they're more enlightened, they're just involved in certain areas more than others. I think that once you have the awakening, it's easier to change and to evolve. Like when you're identified, you're holding on a lot more to yourself and to your way of being, your habits and your conditioning. But even saying all of this, I mean, who knows at the end of the day? Like all this speaking is coming out of me, but who knows? We don't know anything. We just know what's happening. Everything is a mystery. Like I give all these solutions as if they're fact, but they're not fact. It doesn't really coincide. Like who knows? Like it's all bonkers, this life, and what we know is this. I just go from assumptions and from watching and examining life, and from what I've learned and other people and the experiences in myself. But in the end, the only thing that we deeply truly know is what's happening. And that's really all you ever need to know. And then if your character has like deep contracted energy tomorrow, That's what happens. And then here you are, and there's that burning sensation, discomfort, and here you are, right here, as consciousness, watching all of it, as that sense of existence. Thank you for your questions. Hi Carmela, happy Easter. Hi Alan. Beautiful bird sounds in the background, very lovely. In a mystical way, the Trinity can be seen as three aspects of our being. There isn't anything to seek, nothing can fulfill us anymore than we already are, so then why do I feel lonely? It's just misidentification with the loneliness. So, like in the body, there's still habits, still ideas about loneliness and around loneliness. The companionship comes with other people. But also, like if there was a dog that, got stranded on an island and it could exist, but it had no companions, like I'm sure there would be a looking for companionship, a want for companionship. But in the end, the loneliness more than likely comes from some sort of false notion that you can actually get something from humans. All you ever truly look for and truly want is what you are, which is here, presence. Like everything is a happening and appearing in you as presence and touching you and is you. You're never alone. You're never separate from anything. And that's really truly known. Like, yeah, sure, the character can have feelings of loneliness that come and go, but then there's another part of you that's so free that isn't lonely. Hey, Izzy. Hi, Jordan. Namaste, Lisa. Namaste, Jordan. I found a job earlier this month and I have to move into my mother's house. Sharing the space with her seems very difficult. I see myself being very rude and sometimes mean to her because I don't like her energies. I would like to have more space to accept her as she is, and I see my behaviour arrogant and may hurt her. If you have any advice, thank you for the talk and good Nacht. Good Nacht. Good Nabend. Yes. I think I need to put my computer in. Firstly, it's a deep knowing that there's nothing better. Like, so at the moment, I'm sure some of you that watch me regularly know that I'm not in my home. I got trapped in a different country. I live in France, and I got sort of, with the corona, with that thing that I can't talk about on YouTube, with the thingy thing that we're all experiencing at the moment. I got stuck in Germany. Not stuck though. I'm not unhappy in Germany. Germany is beautiful and it's maybe best place to be. And I'm staying in my partner's mother's holiday apartment, which is maybe just a little bit bigger than my lounge. So it's a very small 1-bedroom apartment. It's really lovely. It's a little bigger than my lounge. And when my house isn't that big in the south of France, but it's nice for one person. But I always said that it was too small for 2 people. So when my partner came to stay with me, because we both work from home, I felt like it was a bit small. Like I've only got 2 bedrooms, 1 office and 1 lounge kitchen. That's one thing. And I have a basement as well. And I always said that it's too small for 2 people. And I felt like energetically I'd feel more comfortable if we had a bigger space, like he had his own office, I had my own office, and we had a bit more space from each other. And then we get in lockdown in this very small apartment that's the size of my lounge. And like even in myself, like these bullshit ideas come across, like it just really doesn't make any difference. Like really nothing makes any difference to happiness. You're like, we have these ideas, and even I get caught up in these ideas sometimes that it would be better for us. And ideally, like if we're going to get a house together, when we get a house together, it would be ideal if we each have an office each, and we have, you know, it's set up nicely, that's pleasurable. But at the end of the day, like nothing makes you happy but connection to source. Like when you feel happy, you think it might be because of a pleasure, you think it might be because of a thing, but it's actually because you're connected to who you truly are. And then you think it's because your girlfriend just made love to you, or your boyfriend made love to you, or your boyfriend, you did this or did that, or your partner, whatever, you got a dog, or you won the lottery. And you think that's why you're happy, but actually what happens in those moments is your seeking gets eradicated. And when the seeking gets eradicated, you expand. So it's actually that you stop going into time. It reminds me of my friend who, she's not so much into this subject. She is kind of, but we've known each other since we were 11, but she was never into it like I was into it. And when she was about 30 or 31, her and her partner bought a house together. She had this like spontaneous awakening. She was sitting in the house and she just thought, I've got everything I ever wanted. And then in that, all the seeking disappeared. And then she called me up and she was like, I think I know what you're talking about. Like she just had this massive awakening and felt and was expanded and was everything. And so we always think that it's pleasure, you know, like having a bigger apartment or whatever it is. And it never is whatever you think it is or isn't. So you think that your suffering comes from living with your mum, but it's not actually. It's just that your mum triggers pain in you, and then in that you believe that pain is taking away your freedom. It's not. It's all bullshit. It's so funny, like I you know how I say that all my karmas are, like old karmas are coming out, and like the space thing has always been something throughout my life. I remember as a kid always telling my best friends, like even when I'm like 7 years old, I'm like, I need more space. It's always been my thing. And then I'm in lockdown. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that word either. I don't know I'm sure you guys are familiar with it. I'm not being all conspiracy, but if you say certain things on YouTube, then they like stop the circulation of it. And it seems that they're doing that for what's happening to us in our society at the moment. So not to everyone, maybe just to some, maybe, I don't know. But I know there is some people that it's happening to. It's not just myself. So I can't mention these words. It's amazing that they can even figure out it, or like have these algorithms to figure it out. Maybe they can even detect that I'm telling you now. So it's amazing that I get in this situation, and that I'm in the smallest apartment I've been in since ever. I don't think I've lived in house shares before where you just have your bedroom, but the houses were always bigger than this. So yeah, you don't need anything. It's exactly the same as when I'm in my house in the south of France. It makes no difference. And even after all my experiences, like it slips in that thought, oh, I need a bigger house, or we need a bigger house if we're going to live together. It's all not true. So with your mum, it's not your mum, it's just your pain body gets triggered. And you feel like she's taking something away from you, and then annoyance and anger comes up. Psychologically, there could be games that you're playing with each other, like passive-aggressive games, or maybe she wants a lot of attention from you or whatever. And you can look at that on the human level. Like you can explore the chakras of that, but on the ultimate level, it's not taking anything away from you. Nothing ever is. Your freedom is. It's so radical, this message. Excuse me, I just have to go and deal with Miss Easy. Chick, 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 chick. Where's Chick, chick? Where's Chick, chick? Oh, yes. Chick, chick. Who's a good girl? Okay. Hi Lola. That was about the title and you were wondering yourself what you meant by that. I found it funny. Sorry, no question for me. Okay. Hi Dina. Happy Easter, Lisa. Thank you as always. And I love how honest you are. It helps me so much to hear this. I don't know what I was saying that you liked. That was helpful, but very good. Hi Lisa. I wanted to thank you for your love and your service. I've been listening to you since you started in 2011. The character Ro identifies a lot with the character Lisa. Love to you and beautiful Khaleesi. Oh, thanks, Ro. That's really lovely. Yes, coming up to 10 years next year. Amazing, eh? Wow, what an adventure it's been talking about this. I really should try to finish my book. I'm currently writing a book at the moment for the 10-year anniversary. Hello, Carola. Happy Easter to you. Happy Easter. Hello, Max. Hi, Lisa. Thanks for all. Love your random, spontaneous expression. Very funny. There's a question about surrendering your ego. Each time I notice the thinking process, I know that it's ego. I'm not sure. And even the one who's seeing is the ego too. So I surrender myself to some greater power that my ego, I believe, exists. And I find peace in that for some time until the one who thinks comes back. And the process goes again and again. But the peace is great. Do you see it as effective or just a waste of time playing games with yourself? I think on the human level, it's really beneficial to do this. Yeah, so the more peaceful the person gets, the less seeking there is. So in a way, you could say it's not the more connection, but there's more space. You could imagine it a bit like clouds in a sky, like when there's a big storm and it's really like thick, dense clouds, you can't see the blue sky or the sunlight. And you can imagine that storm like the person and being really identified with the person. And then as it thins out, then you can see the blue sky and the sunlight. But that often makes the person think then it's me that does it. I need to thin myself out but everything that you do is a happening, isn't a separate entity doing. So all your actions that you do is beyond you. You never did a thing. You are an appearance happening, and then there's this ego that's claiming it. And to me, waking up isn't about stopping thinking. Like, it's so complex, all this subject, and I don't have all the answers to it. Like, I don't know, like, if further down the line, you know, when I'm in my 60s, if I'll be able to, like, answer all these things, like, through time. But it's, to me, there is still some form of character that needs to remain, and thinking that needs to remain. Otherwise, you'd become like I don't know what the right word is, like having special needs. You wouldn't be able to function in this world. And in the beginning, I used to find this hard to talk about, because I used to say there is no self, which is true. There is no self here. There is no solid self here and there. But there is an appearance of a self. And I kind of missed that for a bit in the beginning of saying that. I didn't really realize, because it's so complex to talk about, and you're so conditioned by the non-dual language and the non-dual community and the teachers you've come from. And it took a while for me to kind of find my own way to speak about it. So to me, there is a character here, and there is thinking that happens. There is emotions that happen. There is contractions in the body that happen. There is discomfort. There is joy. There is happiness. There is evolution. There is change. There is all variety of things happening in that character. But it's not a solid entity. It's something that's always coming and going. And it's not the experiencer. It is an experience. And to me, that's the shift that I'm talking about. And that might be different to what other teachers are talking about. I'm talking about this shift from being this person to this energetic shift, where there's this waking up and this connection to what you truly are, which is no thing appearing as everything. This empty looking that is everything, that is all things, and this sense of existence is all things. And it's an energetic shift, but still there is appearance of a character. But when you have that shift, like, the reason that it gets really confusing with language, and like in the beginning I feel like I was really unclear in certain areas because I didn't understand it myself, because it's not an intellectual understanding of this. And it's something that speaking about it has helped me teach myself. So, because what's experiencing now is not a person. There isn't a person here experiencing, there is this consciousness experiencing. So you could say there is no self that's experiencing, but there is the appearance of a character. So there is a character, Lisa, that likes some things over other things, that can have these emotional reactions. And before, what used to happen was that character and the consciousness were attached together, so it felt like Lisa was experiencing, and Lisa felt like a certain size, and then that separated out. But the character still thinks, the character still has emotional reactions, the character can still have stories, the character can still have old seeking patterns. So some teachers teach differently, and some teachers say there is a self and there isn't a self. There's an appearance of me and there isn't an appearance of me. And my way, which I've become comfortable with over the years, is sort of saying there's an appearance of a self. Because when I had that awakening, there was times where I had complete disidentification with everything, and it just is love, and I didn't know who I was or what I was, and I didn't care, and it was just total love. But it feels like it feels impossible that could function through a body. Like, to me, it seems that there has to be some form of identification with a body, with a character. There has to be some, like, continuous, like, something that, like, grounds you to this earth in a way. And I don't know what other teachers are necessarily talking about. We might be talking about different things, or we might be talking about same things, or it might be some teachers are more advanced than me, or some teachers are less advanced than me, even though that's really ridiculous, but just in the sense of their experiences, so they teach differently. And so what I'm trying to get to for you through all this long explanation is that, like, don't look for it being the end of thinking or being peaceful on the human level, even though what you're doing is really wise, and I still attempt and strive on the human level to integrate and balance Lisa, you know, when she has unbalanced ideas or views. So you do that on the human level, but don't look to that for enlightenment. Enlightenment is beyond anything human. Enlightenment's what's always been there, no matter how screwed up or how peaceful you are. Enlightenment isn't about you becoming nice or kind or not thinking. That's all on the human level, and there can be effects that happen in the human, but what's being talked about is beyond being human. It's this watching that isn't identified with anything. It's just watching. It's so beautiful. And even that's confusing, everything I say, because there's another part of me that can see that, like, even though I say there has to be some form of identification, there's another part that can see in this experience there is no form of identification. I try my best to speak about this subject. But just don't get too hung up on this thinking or not thinking, or this being ego or not being ego. Everything that appears in this life is a thing, so obviously can't be it. But don't get caught up on what you have to be. Hi Osborne. Hi Lisa. Great stream today. The video clips channel now has 1,998 subscribers. I need some help to get over 2,000. Can you advertise a little bit for the channel on the stream? I always mean to advertise Osborne for you because I think it's really great what you do, but I forget. And I also mean to put it in my YouTube description at the bottom of the box, but I forget. I keep meaning to do it and then I forget to do it. There's this really fantastic channel called Lisa Cairns, I think it is now, dash video clips. It used to be video clips dash Lisa Cairns, but it's the other way around now. And basically, this gentleman edits all the clips. So he edits all the talks that I do and puts them into edited clips, really nice little clips. And he edits out sometimes my nonsense, and he puts titles onto them, and he just finds really nice speeches and just puts them up onto YouTube like that. So it's especially good if you get fed up with my nonsense, like going out and dealing with Khaleesi or going to the toilet in the middle of the stream, or suddenly just like, I mean, that can be endearing, I'm sure, but I also am sure sometimes you just like want an answer to something and then I'm off like. And so Osborne more than likely put on the video, Lisa saying nothing. So then if you know that I'm not going to say anything, or Lisa talks about consciousness, or he gives them all titles and archives them or puts them into playlists. So it's called Lisa Cairns dash video clips. And if you haven't signed up to it, and your next 2 people that sign up to it, you're going to make him over 2,000. Woohoo! I think something happens when you get over 2,000, Osborne. It was a long time ago for me, but I think you become part of a club of something. But I'm sure you know that actually, because you've got another channel that's very popular. Hi Kevin, hi Lisa, just tuned in, so happy to see you and be commonly of source as you follow sourcelings beyond yet including all appearances of all forms, spontaneous love flowing. You remind me of a pure burst of innocent, playful, radical, sublime, homely, divine energy, as all is in a sense, but so vibrantly clear with you. Thank you, dear one. Well, nice, Kevin, thank you. Samuel, that is a big question. Samuel. Jacob. Must be English or American. That's a very English or American name, or Scottish or Welsh. Actually, I'm not sure about Scottish or Welsh. I just rest my mouth for a moment. We have done a lot of talking today. My mum just sent me a picture of her drinking a glass of wine in her, I can't say what she's in, but as we all know, in her secure area. she's watching a concert. Okay. Just got to exercise that mouth, or do my mouth stretches. Okay. Hi Lisa. Hello Samuel. I have a question. There is great love of truth that we are, for we are that love, and from within this love a desire arises to share this understanding in the form of teaching or guiding in a similar way that you are here. My human condition is certainly not perfect, and I notice that my behaviour and thoughts and feelings are not 100% of the time expressing the truth or our shared invisible being. In other words, I occasionally notice patterns of resisting and seeking arising from time to time from the inertia of habit. With this condition, I am still obviously certain of my inherent freedom and peace. There is never a problem, yet there is some wobbliness with regards to teaching, even though at the same time there is such joy in sharing whatever happens spontaneously. If I think what I would love to do for a job, I immediately feel to teach. Can you speak to this from your experience? Yeah, I love to teach. I think all of us are born with different talents in this life. So it doesn't necessarily mean if you have an awakening or a profound shift that you'll be a teacher. Like, I think all of us have our particular gifts to give for this life. I don't know if I think that my gift is storytelling. I know that's really ironic because of the subject, but in a way, what I'm doing is I'm communicating stories. I mean, in a way, the whole of life is stories, and I'm communicating particular stories to you in order to bring about a resonance with this subject. And I think that that's my natural talent in this. And I think then there's other teachers that are teachers as well, teachers, and I don't know if I'm such a teacher. It's funny. I would just, like, I think I mean, I have a lot of friends that are teachers, and just from myself, like, I know for myself I'm not perfect, and I have issues, and I can get drawn into arguments and silly debates and all different things. So on the human level, I'm sure there's like gunk coming out of Lisa, like it's not always helpful to others or expansive to others. And from speaking with other teachers that I know, the majority of them also have that as well. And I think the ability to speak about that and admit that to people and say that it's important. There seems to be some teachers that say that they haven't, and that doesn't come up for them anymore. And I'm just open to that. I'm open to them being unconscious of it, and I'm open to the fact that there might be some people that get to some sort of pace on the human level where they have no negative responses appearing. And so I don't think it's so much looking to your that side of things. I think it's looking to what your motivation is for speaking. And just going deeply into that. And just seeing what it is, is it a form of seeking for you? Seeking validation or seeking clarity? And even if it is, when the student's ready, the teacher will come in every form. It doesn't need to be enlightened. It will be in everything will be seen as a teacher. So it's not that part is so important. It's just for you, like, what is the driving force behind it? And I know, I think I have a sense of what my driving forces are, and I don't know if that's pure or not. It's just the way it is. So one part is the love for certain things and certain ways of phrasing things. So when I speak about non-duality, it really vibrates in my heart, and there's something that's really beautiful about that. It's not so concerned, though, when speaking about it, of how that's received or what's happening in the other. It doesn't really notice an other. It's just like a vibration, like it comes out of me and it feels like love. So there's this part of it. And then there's another human part, or maybe that is the human part, but there's another human part that's like, there's part of me that when I'm speaking to people directly, it's like I want to just give them everything, like I want to give them freedom. So that's more when I'm speaking directly to people. So there's that. It's just trying to be as honest with you as you can with things. There's another area that's interested in money, but not in an excessive way. Like my sessions currently, like, booked out until September or October, and I know that I could put the price up for the sessions, but there's not an interest in doing that. Like, there's an interest in having enough, but it doesn't feel right for me to do too much without having something in return. Like, sounds like it's really greedy, but it actually feels quite balanced to me. It's like an apple tree never taking nutrients from the ground, but just keep continuously giving apples. It's never going to work. It's never going to be sustained. It will eventually die because it will give all its apples, but it won't take any nutrients from the ground. And so there is part of me, when I give away too much for free, it feels uncomfortable for me. So there is an interest there in that, but it's not like an excessively greedy thing. Not that that's necessarily bad, but it's not like I'm trying to take lots and lots. Like, just enough is nice. Like fair. Like, I want to be fair. So there's that. Yeah, so for me, I think that's the main three things. And I would say the most important for me is the first one, is that shining part. There's something really beautiful that happens in particular ways that I articulate non-duality. And that's how this all started for me, was from just doing that. Yeah. The second one was sometimes a little painful, like I want people I want to give people everything. Like when I speak one-on-one to people, like I want to give them everything, and that sometimes can be a little painful because you can't. In a way, I mean, everything is everything, but like if someone's destined to suffer, they're destined to suffer. So, yes. So just try to be as honest with yourself, and if you notice like there's some glory, or like it's just noticing, and there's nothing wrong with it if there's some glory that you find, or being righter than others, or knowing better than others. Like I know there's nothing that it doesn't come up in me. Those are the things that I can feel. Yeah. And if there is these types of things, just being conscious of it. So when you're speaking with someone, if there's like a wanting to beat them or wanting to know more than them or anything like that, just seeing what your motive is. And if a lot of your motives are from more of a seeking energy, then maybe it's not quite the time for you to speak. And if your motives come from what you feel is quite balanced, then speak. Yes. Thank you for your question, Samuel. Hey, Andreas. Hey, I have a question. Yes, Andreas. You want to call in, or you want to write it here as you feel? Hi, Anu. Hi, Ruben Rouge. Hello, Lisa. Thank you. Listening to your talk, brings blue sky experiences. Nice. Hi, Jara. Hi, Lisa. I missed the beginning. Not sure you mentioned it. Can you speak about the idea about the resurrection of Christ? Oh yeah, I spoke about it in the beginning, but I really didn't say too much. I don't feel to revisit it now. Hello, Hugo. Dear Lisa, we met a couple of times in Gouda. Yes, we did. I recognise your face straight away. Always nice to see you and hear you clear and beautiful teaching. Thanks, Hugo. Oh yeah, nice, Hugo. Nice to see you. Hi, Filippo. Hi, Lisa. Good evening. My question is maybe a bit naive, and I'm not sure if I should ask it or not, but here it is. Isn't there something that indicates us if we are on the right path? I mean, I started following the subject of non-duality because it resonated with me, and most of the time it shows me new perspectives, and it gives me fresh air and courage and makes me believe that life is big. These are the reasons why I got addicted to it. But sometimes it's frustrating. I want to get there, and I know this is not the right approach. I'm not even sure if this is what I want to ask. I'm trying to be as serene, sincere as possible. Thank you for your answer. I mean, there's lots of ways you can answer that, because who's on what path? Like this notion that you are going to make it, that you are going somewhere. Who is this you that's on a path to where? That the freedom is this moment, the freedom is that which is watching, which is all things. The freedom is this. It's not something that's for you. Like you is in a story, it's in the film. Feels so weird then going back into the story after that. But on the human level, I understand that the human can feel lost, and the human can feel like it's doing negative things. Like if it was like constantly dating people that were beating them up and treating them like shit, then this isn't the best way for a human to live. The best way, it seems, on the human level to live is to move to that which makes it feel expansive. Like, so life is a constant movement of expansion. So it seems like the best way for the human to be is to line up with that. But then, I mean, what is the human? Like, your freedom has nothing to do with the human. The frustration is in the solar plexus chakra, and it arises in the moment, and then the person, the identity, believes it's true, and then the person begins to make a story out of it and wants to get rid of it. But all feelings and thoughts are simply appearing, and they aren't you. They don't make an identity. So you feel like you're frustrated in time, and you feel like you've got to solve it by working out non-duality. And it's all bullshit. It's all lies. What you are is this empty looking now, right here, here. Here, 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 here. So on the human level, what you can do when you feel like you need something to do is just examine that area in the solar plexus and see it for what it is. It's feelings that have come from an apparent past, that are habits and conditions in the body, and they're appearing, and then you believe them to be true, and they're not true. And then if it's really difficult and really painful in that chakra, what you can do is you can say the opposite. I understand. So you feel frustrated, I can't get it, I'm never going to make it. And then you can start saying the opposite, I will get it, I am going to make it. And this will shift the energy in that chakra. But that's just pleasure and pain. That comes and goes. Your freedom is this. The freedom is that which is experiencing it. It's that the chakra is going to go into pain. It's going to go into frustration sometimes. Like, I'm sure I got frustrated today. Oh yes, I did. Me and my partner played a board game, and he won by He won by 17 points, and that was very irritating. I wanted to win. That was irritating. It's part of life. And everyone, like some of the people in the audience are like, that's so unenlightened that she gets irritated because she doesn't win a game. That's unenlightened. And that's okay if you want to think that, but that's not the way I see it. Like, some teachers teach that, and you're welcome to believe that and think that, but to me it's just a feeling that's arising and disappearing, and it's a human condition. It's the way the humans are made to have all feelings, and your suffering comes when you identify with it and you believe that freedom is in not feeling the frustration and trying to get to peace. It's just sensation and experience arising, and none of it's a big deal. It becomes a big deal when it's for you and you want to be something else. You are as you are, right here, right now. The freedom is here, in it, not out of it. In it, not out of it. Boop, 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 boop. Thank you, Filippo, for your question. Thanks. I understand, and I don't understand at the same time. Very good. It sounds like a good place to be at. Dear Lisa, I'm so grateful for your clear talks. It helps to relax the seeking energy, to see, to know, and to experience that all is exactly as it should be. Wow. Much love, Anik. Hey, Anik. Oh, that's nice. Hi, Monique. Oh, Osborne's just written and said, excellent, thanks. This is the video clips channel I told you. I have now passed 2,000. Woohoo! I must remember to put that. Maybe you could send me a message, Osborne, in Facebook to remind me to change YouTube. That won't necessarily work because then I might forget once I've seen the message. Because I mean it to be in my YouTube. I think it's fantastic what you do. I'm so happy that you do it. So I just take this one last question from Monique. What I do not understand that if there is no person and there is just consciousness experiencing itself as a person, then isn't the seeker also consciousness? And can the seeker as consciousness do something to wake up? Yes, the seeker is also consciousness, but the seeker feels like it's limited. And then it creates the appearance of suffering. There isn't actually anyone that ever suffers. It just creates the appearance of suffering. Can the seeker do anything to wake itself up? This is all abstract thinking. Whatever happens in the seeker is what's happening. And if that body, waking up in one way is always happening. Like consciousness is never really identified with the person. But in the apparent timeline, like whatever happens in your story is kind of the logical causal effect of waking you up, no matter what that is. Because at one point there is going to be the dropping of the illusion. It's just at different apparent times. So whatever it is that happens in your story is what's waking you up. Is this something that you can do? Doing happens. There are things that you can seemingly do to settle you down and to calm you down, and more than likely, as you become more happy and more at peace, then something bigger is seen. But this idea that you are going to arrive at consciousness is the illusion. You aren't going to arrive at consciousness. You already are consciousness. Like, what is conscious now? I think that's a great place to stop. Really enjoyed talking with you. It was really beautiful expressing with you. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And I shall see you next Sunday at 6 p.m. French time. Enjoy all the satsang that's going on the internet at the moment. There's endless goodies out there. My teacher, Roger Castillo, he's broadcasting every day, so you can watch him. And I heard that Gangaji's broadcasting often, and Rupert is, so you can go and enjoy that. Okay, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen, guten Nacht, goodbye.